Hi there, good evening, and welcome to this continuation of our series on grammar, which is targeting the OMAT exams. And as usual, before I move further, this is the day 3. We plan to focus on some other areas related to verbs in this particular session. And in case you're tuning in for the first time, let me tell you who this session is for. So if you are somebody who is writing any of these exams, SNAP, NMAT, ZAT, CMAT, Maharashtra, CET, and you want to revise grammar, then this is the session for you. You are in absolutely right place. And if you happen to have any questions, any concerns, now is the time when you drop them down in the chat and I'd go ahead and answer those. So any questions about this particular session, maybe something from some other session, so anything that you want to talk about, please make sure that you bring that my way. Otherwise, you know that the topic for today is, I'll just go ahead and reiterate some more verb related areas, some areas that build upon tenses, and we go ahead and talk about that. So change of narration, also called direct and indirect speech, change of voice, which is popularly called active and passive voice, and this area called conditional sentences. We plan to review, revise these key things today. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So I'm starting with change of narration. So beginning with the review. So it is also called direct and indirect speech. Now, what do we really mean by this? So instead of giving you the formal definition, let me give you examples. So this is an instance of direct speech. She told him, I like your sense of humor. So what she said has been put as it is in these quote marks. But then there are times when we remove these quote marks, which is called indirect speech. And when you remove those quote marks, you notice some other changes that happen. So that is indirect speech. Now, once again, those of you who are tuning in for the first time, we are not really covering the concepts right from the basics. The purpose of these sessions is to help you revise everything. So I'll just keep it very crisp, very concise. You want to study these things in detail, be my guest, join me in my classes, batches. I do go ahead and work on grammar in extensive detail there. But when we go from direct speech to indirect speech, what is it that changes? Now, it is a very intuitive area for a lot of us, but if you look at it from that perspective of nitty-gritties, do you realize that there are 7 things that change, or say up to 7 things that can change? I wouldn't say 7 things change, but up to 7 things need to change in order to make the conversion grammatically correct. So what are those up to 7 things? First up, comma and quotation marks are removed. So you notice whenever you state direct speech, you have a part, then a comma, then the quote starts, and then there is a end quote. So this comma, I'm not talking about the other commas, but this comma right before the quote marks and the quote marks themselves, they are always removed. Then second, a conjunction is usually introduced. So see, basically when you use direct speech, you have an entire sentence embedded inside some other sentence with the help of those quote marks. Now the moment you remove those quote marks, you are left with 2 clauses. And if you have 2 clauses in a sentence, there has to be some way of connecting it. So usually you need to introduce some kind of conjunction. But which conjunction do you introduce? That depends on the kind of sentence that was there within the quote marks. Okay. And then there are times when some word which is already there in that sentence can go ahead and act as a conjunction. There are situations where you don't require a conjunction. So of course you go ahead and study all those things. Number 3, reporting verb may change. So the verb which is outside of the quote marks, it may change. So you remember, if it says said to, it becomes told. Say to becomes tells. If there is a question there, it becomes asked or inquired. If it is an imperative sentence inside of the quote marks, then you kind of imperative, if it's an exclamatory sentence there, then you introduce that emotion inside the reporting verb. So those things. Then the tense of the reported speech may change. What is reported speech? The part that is in the quotation marks. Okay, so it may change. So it partly depends on the reporting verb. If your reporting verb is in present tense, then the tense of what is in the quote marks, that does not change. Present or future, it won't change. If it is in the past, then you go ahead and change the tense. There are a few exceptions that you hopefully know of. Fifth, persons of the reported speech are changed. Remember, first, second, and third person, they may need to be adjusted. And sixth, word showing nearness, time, or place usually change. You remember, here becomes there, today becomes that day, those kind of things. And seventh, terminal punctuation may change. Terminal punctuation is the punctuation that comes at the end of the sentence. So the terminal punctuations are a period or a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation point. So these three are the terminal punctuations. Indirect speech always ends with a period. So in your direct speech, if the sentence inside the quote marks had a question mark or an exclamation point, both of these get converted into a full stop or a period. So these are the 7 things that we basically do pay attention to. And in this session, you and I will go ahead and look at questions to ensure that we have our understanding pat on. So if there is any of these areas that you want me to talk about in greater detail, go ahead, flag it in. And then Priyanshi says, sir, are we going to do vocabulary classes also? Yeah, definitely. We can always work on vocabulary. Big deal. Shubham says, sir, can you please teach modifiers once? Teach. I can help you revise them. Yes. Okay, the next session, I'll try to do it tomorrow. And if I manage to do one tomorrow, we'd go ahead and work on modifiers. Vanshika, vocab, done. Srinath, 3 things today. You stuck between 2025. Ankit, we definitely need an improvement, another 15-16 marks. What is your plan? Where do you plan to get those extra 15-16 marks from? क्या सोचा है तुमने अभी तक कि वो कहाँ से मिलेंगे तुम्हें? So go ahead, think along those lines. देखते हैं, कोई बात नहीं, जो जो गलतियां हो रही हैं यार उन्हीं से सीखते हैं. ठीक है, तो चलिए, let's go ahead and dive into our questions. Here are the directions for the first 8 questions. You've been given a sentence followed by 4 options. Choose the answer choice that correctly changes the narration of the sentence. So if the sentence that you're given to is in direct speech, choose the one which is indirect. If it is in indirect speech, choose the one which gives you the correct direct speech. Okay, ready? So here is your question number 1, and the clock is ticking right above my head. Ketan is saying meow, 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 meow. Ketan, bow, wow, bow, wow. पर पता नहीं यार क्यों, मतलब अंदर के जानवरों को जगा रहे हो, क्यों इस स्तर तक लेके आ रहे हो, मुझे बताओ. हाँ. हाँ, तो थोड़ी घड़ी मेरे सिर के थोड़ी पीछे आ रही है, एडजस्ट कर लेना. बट तुम्हें पता चल जाएगा जब पूरा 1 मिनट हो जाएगा तो. और आज लैग थोड़ा सा ज्यादा आ रहा है, पता नहीं क्यों. नॉर्मली 14-15 सेकंड का लैग रहता है, आज ऑलमोस्ट 20 सेकंड का लैग चल रहा है. All right, so here we are. Question number 1, you've said that the right answer is D, and you are absolutely spot on. The correct answer is indeed D. You got this one right. So question number 2, the timer has started. कनिष्क यार दोबारा भेज दिया अगर भाई क्वेरी, सारे मैसेजेस यार पढ़ने मुश्किल हो जाते हैं. Kanishk, it's at times difficult to go ahead and read every single message. So if I haven't replied, it's okay. Yaar, just go ahead, send it again. Okay? नहीं तो I'll have to scroll back, search, hunt. And please don't forget to add 2 before your answer, ताकि मेरे को वो overlap में थोड़ा fight नहीं होए. हैं? Excellent job, guys. The correct answer is indeed option B. Good. Question number 3. And the clock is ticking. मतलब सारे हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी वैरायटीज दे दूंगा मैं तुम लोगों को, ताकि कोई ज्यादा फाइट नहीं होए तुमको. तो देखते हैं. जिम्स, कालका जी, बैकअप, कनिष्क. यार मतलब ऑफलाइन बात कर ले यार. मतलब यूड हैव टू गिव मी सम रियली साउंड रीजंस टू पिक दिस कॉलेज. ओके, मतलब कुछ सॉलिड सॉलिड रीजन देगा तो ही मैं हाँ बोल पाऊंगा, नहीं तो मेरी तरफ से ना है भाई. विशाखा, विच वन? थर्ड? Okay. Okay, so the correct answer to question number 3 is indeed A. विशाखा says के एक बार इसे explain कर दीजिएगा. तो देखो, इसमें दो तीन चीज़ें हैं, right? पहली चीज़ तो ये कि there is a question here. When there is a question, this said to is converted into asked or inquired, something along these lines, which is happening in all of these, right? दूसरा, you remember these expressions of time, nearness, place, etc. get changed. सो यहाँ पे जब नाउ होता है तो दिस बिकम्स देन. हाँ, सो बी और डी में जो नाउ है इसकी वजह से यू कैन एलिमिनेट बी एंड डी. ओके, देन दिस कैन, बिकॉज दिस रिपोर्टिंग वर्ब इज इन पास्ट, द टेंस विल चेंज. सो आप डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच में बेसिकली क्या करते हैं, एक टेंस पीछे चले जाते हैं. सो जब मॉडल ऑक्सिलरी वर्ब होती है तो उसका पास्ट फॉर्म यूज करने लग जाते हैं. तो कैन है तो कुड हो जाएगा. ठीक. अब ए और सी दोनों में कुड है, बट डिफरेंस क्या है अब ध्यान देना. ओके, ध्यान देना. डिफरेंस क्या है? डिफरेंस ये है कि इन द डायरेक्ट स्पीच इट इज अ क्वेश्चन, एंड व्हेन यू क्रिएट अ क्वेश्चन द हेल्पिंग वर्ब और द मॉडल ऑक्सिलरी वर्ब इज पुट बिफोर द सब्जेक्ट. So when you create a question, it comes before the subject. But when you change it into indirect speech, is it a question? Look at the terminal punctuation. It is no longer a question, which means that the helping verb or the modal auxiliary verb needs to go back to its original place after the subject. So in option C, it is still kept before the subject. That is what is wrong, and that is why we are choosing A as our answer to question number 3. Here is your next question, and the time has started. Okay, so far I have gotten B, C, and D as my answer to question number 4. Okay, so let us see. My sister was here. Okay, when you say was here, this is simple past, because the reporting verb is in past tense. We need to change the tense of the reported speech. So simple past becomes past perfect, which means that my sister was here ki jagah we should use my sister had been here. So B, C, and D. Okay, B says had been, C says had been. D does not change the tense, so D can be ruled out. Okay. But then there is another clause, but she is not here now. Is basically tells you that it is simple present. So simple present should become simple past, which means that instead of is, we need was. So B says was, array C says has not been. That's incorrect. So C also gets ruled out. The correct answer must be option B. So देखो एक tense पीछे, if the reporting verb is in the past tense, then the tense of the reported speech changes. So if it is in present tense, choose the corresponding past tense. If it is simple past, make so simple present becomes simple past, present continuous becomes past continuous, so on and so forth. If it is already simple past, then it becomes past perfect, right? So just make those switches. Okay, so if you go through the concepts, I'm sure it is one of those areas which is very formulaic in nature, so you'd hopefully be able to pick it up. And if there is a part there that you could not understand, please leave a comment, please reach out and I'll explain. Question number 5. अंकित ने कुछ तो पूछा. We must stick with word with only if there is no object after said. हाँ, तो सब में she said ही तो लिखा है. सी में she told था तो इसलिए वो गलत हो गया ऑब्वियसली. हाँ, आप डी को भी उसी हिसाब से इग्नोर कर सकते थे. दैट वाज अनदर वे ऑफ अराइविंग एट द राइट आंसर. एनीहाउ, सो कमिंग बैक टू दिस क्वेश्चन, द आंसर फॉर फिफ्थ विल बी डी. Okay, so A can be ruled out because of exclaimed. These are questions, these are not exclamation points, so you'll not really go ahead and write exclaimed, you can rule it out. Huh. Then if we continue, said ka you can make asked or inquired of. Both of these are fine. So ये तीनों में ठीक है. Who he was, okay, that's fine. And that where he had come from, this that is extra here in B, so you can rule it out. Let's look at the next part. Where have you come from? Where have you come from is present perfect. So in the next part, we need past perfect. Now in C, it says he come from. That's not past perfect, and that is why C is incorrect. And that is why we have gone on to choose D. So you noticed teeny weeny little things here and there, and they could have helped us arrive at the right answer. Question number 6. The clock is ticking. Excellent, guys. Excellent. Absolutely right. The correct answer here is A. And since everybody has managed to get this right, let's move over to the next question. Question number 7. Your time starts now. Ooh, Kanishk, you chose D. When you talk about universal truths, okay, when you talk about universal truths, you don't change the tense, proverbs, sayings, universal truths, they are always stated using present indefinite tense. So we need not, so वो tense थोड़ा ना उसमें हमने गड़बड़ कर दिया था D में. That is why D should be skipped or should have been skipped. Sorry. Okay, Abhina, if we look at question number 7, there is going to be a teeny weeny bit of an issue, and that is, where is this her coming from? How do we know that this you is a her and not a he? But then, if you notice, all the answers are making that same mistake, so you'd have to ignore it. So the options that I've gotten are A versus B. A says, he asked her why she had given up her job. Sounds fine. B, he asked her, why you? The second person becomes the third person, no? That's problem number 1. Problem number 2, did and give. This tells you that it is simple past. We needed to change the tense. Simple past should become past perfect. So in option B, we are also using the wrong tense. So 2 strikes against B and therefore can be ruled out. A, on the other hand, is absolutely correct. And here is your last question, question number 8. Go ahead and give it a shot. कोई बात नहीं, Raj. That is exactly why we have these practice sessions, right? So that all the mistakes that you want to make, please go ahead, make them here, so that you can learn from them and avoid making them in the exam. So generally that changes into they. Na. That changes into they. Why? Or maybe you want to say something else. All right. So the answer that I am getting for 8th is A and B. So the problem, man, some people, I don't know what thrill they get from putting on really loud exhausts on their vehicles. Ye have ke baad ka, where is the 2? Shouldn't it be have to? So it is missing out on that 2. B gets this, that is why B over A. No sir, now that you changes into they, that depends on you are talking to a one person or multiple people. So here, that is why I said that you wouldn't know why it is a her, but then because every option made that mistake, that got neutralized. Then you'd have to accept that, okay, we'd have to use she or her. So the options were carefully designed there, right? The options were carefully designed. Okay. So that's a review of direct and indirect speech for you. Let us now get into the change of voice. So we are talking about active and passive voice. So how do we change a sentence from active voice to passive voice? How do we make this change? So basically 3 things. there is a subject object flip flop. Okay. So if I say you are studying English grammar, huh? So this is the object, that's the subject. So you remember object becomes the subject. So you say English grammar is being studied by you. So subject becomes the object, object becomes the subject. So that's what I mean by subject object flip flop. Second thing, you add a by before a noun or a pronoun that acts as the doer in the sentence. So एक्टिव से पैसिव में जब जाते हैं तो वो जो सब्जेक्ट है उसे ऑब्जेक्ट बनाते हैं, उस ऑब्जेक्ट के पहले बाय लगा देते हैं. And then third, we use two verbs. एक तो to be form का verb and the main verb will always be stated using the third form. And those of us who wonder, यार ये to be form मतलब क्या? So to be form मतलब one of these. Is, am, are, was, were, be, been or being. And in case this is something that worries you, here, why don't you take a quick screenshot of what you see on your screen right now. So I'll just go ahead, hide myself so that you can read it completely. देखो अभी स्क्रीनशॉट ले लेने का. So it tells you the verb in active voice and the corresponding verb in passive voice. So you can go ahead and use this in order to arrive at your answers. Now all those tenses that are, so basically if a tense is of the perfect continuous form, it cannot have a passive voice. Similarly, you'd notice even the future continuous does not have a passive voice. So there are these 5 tense categories out of 12 where you cannot have a passive voice. Moreover, if a sentence gives you, I hope you've taken the screenshot. Okay. So moreover, if you, what was I about to say? If you have a sentence that does not have a transitive verb, once again, you cannot really convert it into a passive voice. I mean, there are exceptions, you always have exceptions, but right now we are focusing more on the review of this entire area. So let's just focus on those things. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about some special cases that get asked in the exam and then we'll practice. So special case number 1, there are sentences that happen to have ditransitive verbs. So what is a transitive verb? A transitive verb is a verb that happens to have an object. Okay. Ditransitive verbs are verbs that have two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. For example, अभी कल को किसी ने पूछा कि भाई तुमको ग्रामर किसने पढ़ाई, तो तुम बोल सकते हो कि यार विक्रांत taught me grammar, है ना. Now look at the verb Vikrant taught. Now if you put a what or a whom after the verb and create a question, so Vikrant taught what did I teach? Grammar. So that is known as the direct object of the verb. Okay. And if you ask a question to or for, well, basically the other object is the indirect object. You can always reframe the sentence in such a way that the indirect object becomes the object of to or for. Vikrant taught grammar to me gives you the same idea, right? So whenever your sentence has two objects, whenever it's a ditransitive verb, you can use any one of these two as your subject. So I can say so I was taught grammar by Vikrant. You can also say grammar was taught to me by Vikrant. Both of these are going to be legit passive voices. Okay. So here you go. Then you have imperative sentences. Remember imperative sentences? The sentences through which we issue commands, requests, and instructions. You know, when you tell somebody, get lost, that's an imperative sentence. When you say, yaar, please help me, that's an imperative sentence. If you want to create an imperative sentence, there are two structures. This is the first one. So if I say, open the door, example, if the sentence says, open the door, then the passive will be, now look at this, let, then the object of the verb here was the door, let the door be opened. So that is one. Okay, now the other way out, there is one more way out. There are times when you want to emphasize the person, bring in the person into the picture. In that case, you can use this structure. You can say you're requested, ordered, advised, whatever the emotion there is. So you can say you are instructed to open the door. That is another legit passive voice. So I've covered the high frequency areas. Let's go ahead and solve some questions. So the questions start here. So question number 9 on your screen. इनको इग्नोर कर लेना यार जरा. बस एक की चीज याद रखना, डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच में टेंस चेंज करते हैं. एक्टिव पैसिव वॉइस में टेंस चेंज नहीं होता, सेम टेंस का पैसिव वॉइस यूज होता है. So when it comes to active passive voice, you do not change the tense. You go ahead and use the passive voice of that exact same tense. And in this particular case, guys, you are absolutely spot on. The correct answer must be option B. Fabulous. Okay, so question number 10. And wherever you are in doubt, just use the screenshot, and that screenshot will guide you towards the right answer. Yep, so the correct answer here is option D. I think almost everyone has got this right. Anybody who's given me a different answer? Nope. I think everybody has shared D. So D it is, absolutely correct. So here is the next question. अंकित रिवाइज करें. हार्ड क्वेश्चन ग्रामर में कोई होता नहीं है यार. देखो, यू ईदर नो द कॉन्सेप्ट बिहाइंड दैट क्वेश्चन और यू डू नॉट. या बट व्हेन यू आर इन अ क्लास वेयर यू आर फोकसिंग ऑन अ पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक, अ पर्टिकुलर एरिया, तो आपको पता होता है ना, तो थोड़ा ईजी हो जाता है उस तरीके से सोचना. इन अ मिक्स बैग टेस्ट लाइक अ मॉक यू कैन गेट एनीथिंग. सो वो एक अलग चैलेंज है. बट ये तो रिव्यू वाली सीरीज है. हम जब आपको मॉक्स देते हैं, मैराथन देते हैं, हम मिक्स्ड बैग टेस्ट लाते हैं उसमें. Remember that ZAT marathon that I took 4 days ago? So we had that there 3-4 days ago. So you can go ahead visit that. तो हो जाएगा धीरे धीरे यार. So पहले concepts master करें, फिर बाकी सारी चीजें. So in 11th the correct answer is indeed option D. Some of us have also chosen A, but look at this. See, learn to identify the tense. The moment you say have given, this is present perfect. Now what is the passive voice? You realize that you need to add a to be form of the verb. So in perfect tense, you add been. So I need have been given. And have been given is there in only one option D, and that is why that's the correct one. Although this is one of those questions where you've been given a ditransitive verb. So one passive is D, the other passive voice could have been, some concessions might have been given to the students by their teachers. Yeah, to the students by their teachers. Something along those lines. So that'll be another thing. Okay, question 12. Bonus marks for telling me what is different about this question compared to the last few. क्या different है इसमें? Okay, so what is different is that this sentence is already in passive voice. Now you are looking for the active voice. So in the passive voice, when you use was given, which tense will this be? This is the passive voice structure of the simple past tense. So in the active too, you are going to use the simple past tense. And what do we use in the simple past tense? The second form of the verb. A lot of us have gone on to pick up see, but then see uses past perfect. The sentence is in simple past, and therefore C cannot be right. The correct answer will be option A. And do remember, I don't know, I look at it logically. So what is active and what is passive? In a sentence that has a transitive verb, you would see somebody who is a doer, somebody who performs the action. So if that doer is the subject, then it is active voice. If the doer is not the subject, then it is passive voice. So here the doer was the grandfather. He was the one who gave the watch. But in the sentence given to you in the question, he is not the subject. So that tells you it is passive voice. So you need to go from passive to active. Okay. And Shovik was, I think, HTG, Krish. Okay, Krish was the first one to tell me it is passive to active, followed by HTG, Priyanshi, Shovik, Raj, Harsh, Vishakha, and Onindita. Absolutely great, guys. Here is the next one. Monadeep, Harsh. Fabulous job, both of you. The correct answer is B. A lot of you are marking A, but then look at the difference between A and B. The only difference is will and shall. So, what do? What is the difference between will and shall? What did we talk about in our previous class on Saturday? क्या बात की थी आपने और मैंने? We use shall with I or we, and we use will with everything else. Right? So these are equivalent to each other. Okay. Now you can also choose to swap. You can use I or we with will, and you can use everything else with shall, but this difference shows additional commitment. So here in the original question, what is the subject? Those happy days. So it is not I, it is not we, it is something else, and alongside we are using will. So now that the subject has become I, what is the better verb for I? If you're using will with everything else and in your active voice or passive voice for that matter, the subject is I or we, the equivalent will be shall and not will. Otherwise, you'll change the intention of the sentence. You'll end up adding the commitment. हाँ, अभी यहाँ पे अगर shall वाला ऑप्शन नहीं होता तो बात अलग थी, पर अभी तो है इसलिए वो नहीं करेंगे, एंड दैट इज बाय बी. इसमें would नहीं होगा क्या? अच्छा देखो, will is future tense, and remember in active passive voice we don't change the tense, we merely move from the structure in active voice to the structure in passive voice and vice versa. will का would direct indirect speech में हो रहा है, active passive voice में नहीं हो रहा है, क्योंकि ये तो टेंस चेंज हो जाएगा. ये तो हमने फिर विल का पास्ट कर दिया. वी डोंट डू दैट. ओके, एंड डी डज नॉट इवन हैव वेयर वी एवर शैल आई फॉरगेट दोज हैप्पी डेज. ये शैल की पोजीशन गलत है भाई. हाँ, ये तो पोएट्री टाइप का कुछ सेंटेंस हो रहा है, बट इट डज नॉट इवन मेक एनी मीनिंग. इट डज नॉट फॉलो द स्टैंडर्ड सिंटैक्स ऑफ इंग्लिश. Next question. Vishal says, won't those change to these? क्यों? Active passive voice है यार, direct indirect speech थोड़ी है. वो तो active passive में करते हैं अपन. Okay, the correct answer for 14th. So see, first up, let's take it clause by clause. Your plea has been accepted. Passive voice. Has been accepted tells you it is present perfect. Right? We need to change the voice. Let's look at A. They have accepted your plea. Will that work? Yes. They have accepted your plea. Will that work? Yes. Your plea has been accepted. Now, has the voice changed here? No. That is what we were asked to do. So C can be eliminated. D. Someone have accepted your plea. Someone can also work. Okay. So instead of they that they've used in A and B, we can also use someone. When the subject is not known, you need to use something that can refer to an unknown entity. So you can use they, you can use someone. That'll work. But then the problem is we cannot use have with someone because someone is singular. So this part right here is wrong. So D also gets eliminated. So in A and B, the first clause is right. Let's focus on the next one. So this was in passive voice. This had to be converted in active. Next one, they will assign you a good lawyer soon. This is in active voice. We need to convert into passive. Change the voice, remember? So they will assign you a good lawyer soon. A good lawyer will be assigned to you soon. But if you look at A, they have not changed the voice of the second clause, so A gets ruled out, but B does it, and that is why the correct answer should be B. So दो clause थे, दोनों का voice change करना था. पहला passive में था, उसे active में करना था. दूसरा active में था, उसे passive में करना था. Okay, so I hope you get the drift, and here is one last review question for you on active and passive voice. Go ahead and give it a shot. शौविक बिल्कुल ठीक सोचा था, अगली बार कॉन्फिडेंस से करने का. हर्ष कर लेते हैं, वो कैब वाले भी प्लान कर लेते हैं, क्वेश्चन ही प्रैक्टिस करवा सकता हूँ, कुछ नए वर्ड सिखा सकता हूँ, कोशिश करते हैं यार. लेट्स गो अहेड एंड डू देम. ओके. Khushi says will assigned is changed to assigned. Will assign will be changed to will be assigned or shall be assigned depending upon the subject. Okay. So 15th is an imperative sentence. Okay. And what did I tell you? There are two ways in which we can create passive voice of imperative sentences. Let, then the object from that sentence, then be, and then the third form of the verb, or you are requested, instructed, ordered, whatever. So that you are structure is not available in any of these answer choices, so it has to be let. So let all the exams be conducted. That sounds right. The exams were all conducted. Nope. All the exams are conducted. No. Imperative sentence. Start with let, start with you. D. Let all exams. Where is the? Should. Why are we inserting should? So let's rule out D. So the best answer for us is option A, and therefore that should be the option that we go ahead and work with. And with that, now let us get into our last topic, review topic for the day, and that is conditional sentences. So guys, what do you know about conditional sentences? What do we know about conditional sentences? And do you have concerns? Do you have questions? I mean, originally I did not plan to talk about these. I thought कि यार ये तो सबको आता ही होगा. But 10th वाले क्लास में कुछ लोगों ने बोला तो मैंने एक ये segment भी add कर दिया कि चलो, you guys are saying तो we'd go ahead and do it. So conditional sentences are sentences that mention a condition and that condition is linked with an outcome. For example, when you say if he listens to me, so that is your condition. Then I will help him. That I will help him is your outcome. So the part after if is the condition. So it's not the first part, it is the part after if. You can also write it as I will help him if he listens to me. So you just look at the placement of if, and that's the key. Then is optional. You can retain it, remove it, does not matter. Here is one more example. If he had practiced more, he could have become a great singer. So notice the condition and the outcome. So when it comes to conditional sentences, once again, I'm just reviewing. There are 4 structures that we use. Some people call them type 0, type 1, type 2, type 3, whatever. It does not matter. So let's just say there are these 4 types. Now there are a couple of differences between these 4 types. So what are those couple of differences? By one difference is in terms of the syntax. One difference is that of the syntax. And the other difference is that of the usage. So notice एक में present indefinite, future indefinite, दूसरे में past indefinite, conditional past. Conditional past basically means would, could, should, or might. Okay, and then you have conditional perfect, once again would, could, should, might, along with have, along with the third form of the verb. Okay, and then look at the 4th type, present indefinite on both the sides. T कहाँ गया इसका? Present indefinite on both the sides. अब n खा गया, मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ यार? ठीक है. सो देयर यू गो. अब डिफरेंसेस क्या हैं कि ये जो टाइप 4 है, it is a pseudo conditional. This structure is used only when your sentence is talking about a scientific fact, a regular or habitual action, a universal truth kind of thing. And in type 4, it is possible for you to replace the if with when. So it's not even a real condition in that sense. Okay. Type 1, 2, and 3. Type 1 says that if the condition is fulfilled, the outcome is guaranteed. Type 2 wala structure tells you that if the condition is fulfilled, the outcome is not guaranteed. And type 3 is used when somebody was supposed to fulfill that condition in the past, but that person did not. And therefore, the outcome that could have happened is also now not gonna happen. Okay, so it is one of those rare areas in English grammar where there is a formula or there are formulae. So you notice there are just these 4 formulae. If you see a sentence that does not use one of these 4 structures, you can straight away call that sentence grammatically incorrect. And if it is using one of these 4 structures, then just check once. Is this the correct structure that is to be used to convey the condition outcome relationship that we want to convey? If yes, then great. Okay. Yazalan. In cafe. Cafe. What do you mean by cafe? Okay. So let's go ahead and practice a few questions. So there you go. 16th. What do you think? So your conventional question, a sentence divided into 3 parts. One of these parts may have an error. In that case, that part is your answer. Otherwise, you go ahead and choose D. अरे अथर क्वेश्चंस तो हैं ही, बट वो कॉन्सेप्ट रिवाइज तो करवाने थे ना भाई. रिव्यू क्लासेस चल रही हैं, सारे की कॉन्सेप्ट रिवाइज करेंगे हम. उप्स, सॉरी यार, ये साउंड एक तो मैं बंद करना भूल जाता हूँ, इसे हटाना पड़ेगा मुझे. हाँ जी, सो क्वेश्चन नंबर 16, व्हाट्स योर टेक ऑन दिस? So look at it. I see this if. So this part is the condition. It says I know what it is. No tells me that it is stated using the present indefinite tense. That is the simple present tense. मेरे टीचर ने स्कूल में प्रेजेंट इंडेफिनिट बोला था ना, तो मेरा डिफॉल्ट वही है. ओके. अब दूसरी तरफ क्या है? वुड हैव टोल्ड. वुड प्लस हैव प्लस वर्ब्स थर्ड फॉर्म इज कंडीशनल परफेक्ट. तो अब दिक्कत क्या है कि ये जो कंडीशनल परफेक्ट है, एक तरफ ये, एक तरफ प्रेजेंट इंडेफिनिट, ये नहीं चलेगा. लुक एट द स्ट्रक्चर. ओके, व्हेन यू यूज द प्रेजेंट इंडेफिनिट, then the other side should have future indefinite. And if the other side has conditional perfect, then your condition should be stated using past perfect. So इसमें mismatch हो गया. एक one half is this and the other half is this. Now that will not do. You cannot mix and match. That's not allowed. Okay. So one of these two parts has to be changed. So which part do we change? I can change the outcome side, but then the problem with changing the outcome side is that I will have to change this would. I will have to remove this have. So A और B दोनों में से एक एक चीज हटानी पड़ेगी. I will have to remove something from both A and B. Right? But then I need to give a unique answer. So what choice do I have? The only choice that I have now is change this know into have known. Sorry, had known, not have known. If I had known. So that's the only way in which you and I can go on to fix it. And therefore, our answer here should actually be option C. You getting the drift? So ये करना है यार हमें. So fair enough. So that's why our answer should be C. So Kulboy, if you say if I knew, then you are using past indefinite. So if you use past indefinite, the outcome should use would, could, should, might plus verbs first form. Then see, if I knew what it is, I would tell you the answer. But then once again, if you change know into new, you still have to remove that have told and replace it with tell. It'll still remain incorrect. Okay. So Priyanshi, the difference is if you use past indefinite, I'll just take you back. If you revisit this, what did I tell you about type 2? If this is the structure that you are using, it means that even if somebody fulfills the condition, the outcome is not guaranteed. Outcome is a possibility. It is not a certainty. Whereas in type 1, the outcome is a certainty. So it changes the meaning in a subtle way. Well, I said, if we start talking about those things, yeah, then it will become more of a, then it will become more of a grammar class. अभी review कर रहे हो, फिर grammar के class में कर लेंगे, ठीक है? Okay, question number 17. Go ahead and give it a shot now. So, what's your answer? Whew. So बताइए भाई हम क्या यूज कर रहे हैं इसमें. So our take on question number 17, our answer to question number 17 should be option B. Change this will into would. And you good to go. So अब देखो इधर क्या हो रहा है. If I were you, when do we use the were structure? We use the were structure when you use type 2. हाँ, और टाइप 2 में वही इट ऑल्सो इंक्लूड सब्जंक्टिव मूड स्लैश हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशंस. ये थोड़ा सा उसमें ओवरलैप हो रहा है. सो टाइप 2 में यू यूज सिंपल पास्ट और यू यूज वेर. ओके. और उसमें दूसरे साइड में आउटकम वाले साइड में क्या यूज करते हैं? वुड, कुड, शुड, माइट प्लस वर्ब्स फर्स्ट फॉर्म. सो हियर instead of using would, could, should, might, we ended up using will, which is wrong. So use the correct modal auxiliary verb, which is would. So just stick to a formula and establish what the sentence wants to convey. So if you cannot change A into simple present. Why? Because it's hypothetical. Moreover, it is also in the past. So वो आप कर नहीं सकते. आप बोलना चाहते हैं अगर मैं तुम्हारी जगह रहा होता ना तो मैं ऐसा कभी नहीं करता. Okay. So Atharv, as long as you get the answers right, fantastic. In case you come across a question where you are not able to get the answer right, then in that particular question type, make sure that you go ahead and learn the rule. उस क्वेश्चन के लिए आप रूल लर्न कर लें. बाकियों के लिए आप रूल इग्नोर भी कर देंगे तो भी चल जाएगा. Fair enough? चलिए, so let me take you over to your next question. Question number 18 on your screen. Go ahead, give it a shot. कुशाग्र लास्ट वर्ड्स क्यों बोल रहा है भाई? कहाँ जाने वाला हूं मैं? ऑल आई कैन से इज ऑल द बेस्ट. गो अहेड, जितना पढ़ाई की उतना करके आना है बस. ठीक है. ओके, सो द करेक्ट आंसर for question number 18 is option A. Instead of if I had a chance, it should be if I had had a chance. देखो दूसरी तरफ क्या है, I could have explained. Conditional perfect. Plus, we know that we are talking about past. ये उससे मिल चुका है पहले. So, it has to be type 3. And type 3 basically asks you to use past perfect. But here, instead of using past perfect, the sentence was using simple past. So, एक तरफ type 2, एक तरफ type 3, and that was the mismatch, and that was the problem here. देखो अभी ना, this verb had, it can be a helping verb, it can be a main verb. Okay, when it is used as a main verb, it shows possession, it shows eating, etc. I had lunch, that kinds. I have a pen. So when I say, look at this, when I say I have a pen, this is simple present. Okay, whenever have is used as a helping verb, it is always supposed to, it is followed by the third form of a verb. Do you see any other verb here? No. So it's a main verb here. Similarly, if you say if I had a chance, do you see another verb after had which is in the third form? No. Which tells you that it is the main verb here. तो ये तो सिंपल पास्ट हुआ. इसको had करो ताकि पास्ट परफेक्ट हो जाए. Okay, I know some of you would probably find it tricky, but exam में पूछते हैं इस तरह की चीजें, so we obviously have to go ahead and cover it. Question number 19, your take on this. Go ahead. ओके, सो क्या चूज किया जाए 19th में? अब देखो यहां पे ना, एक तरफ वेर, एक तरफ वुड हैव फाउंड, ये दोनों एक साथ नहीं आते. बोथ ऑफ दीज आर नॉट यूज्ड इन अ सेंटेंस टुगेदर. So we have to change one side. Which side should we change? That clue is given to us in this last part. A better job years ago. So we are talking about the past. So if you were supposed to fulfill a condition in the past that you did not, you were supposed to use type 3. So this were needs to be replaced with had been. If Tom had been a bit more ambitious, he would have found himself a better job years ago. तो ये वाली चीज, ये वाली साइड हमको चेंज करनी चाहिए यहां पे. ओके, सो दैट्स द टेक. And here comes the last question based on conditionals. There you go. अथर्व वॉज तो कभी भी नहीं आता इनमें. कंडीशनल्स में कंडीशन वाले साइड पे वॉज यूज नहीं करते हम. उसके लिए ना एक बार सब्जेक्टिव मूड पढ़ लेना, दैट शुड हेल्प यू। उसमें कुछ डाउट हो तो पूछ लेना, फिर देखेंगे क्या कर सकते हैं। और माइंड मत करना, मतलब अभी रिव्यू है ना तो थोड़ा तेज तेज चलना पड़ रहा है। एज आई सेड क्लासेस में बहुत थरली पढ़ाते हैं, और मैं टेंसेस में 4 घंटे लगा देता हूँ। देन कंडीशनल सेंटेंस लग ही जाता होगा आई थिंक 30 40 45 मिनट। टाइम नहीं किया, जब तक बच्चों को समझ नहीं आता अपन चलते ही है, पढ़ाते ही है। हाँ, तो अभी रिव्यू है क्योंकि ज़्यादातर लोगों का NMAT लोग दे ही रहे हैं हर रोज़, फिर 8 को स्नैप भी आ जाएगा, उसके बाद जैट भी है, उससे पहले सब कुछ करना है। तो मैं कोशिश यही कर रहा हूँ कि अगले इन अदर है ना 2 1 हफ्ते में कोशिश ये था कि चलो बाय एंड लार्ज ग्रामर वो कैब रिव्यू हो जाए, फिर जैट के लिए थोड़ा डिसीजन मेकिंग पे फोकस कर लें, पोम्स पे फोकस कर लें। सो वी काइंड ऑफ pivoting towards that. Okay, so once again, the correction in 20th, the answer is B, the correction is, चेक करने के लिए दिया था जो थोड़ी देर पहले सिखाया था, इफ शी हैड हैड अ गार्डन शी माइट हैव ग्रोन। नोटिस टाइप 3 स्प्रेड ओवर 2 सेंटेंसेस, चेंज ही नहीं कर सकते, सी और डी तो दोनों को आपको रखना ही है। सो द ओनली प्लेस दैट यू कुड हैव चेंज्ड वाज बी, यू हैड टू चेंज इट इनटू पास्ट परफेक्ट टेंस। सो अच्छा, मुझे लग रहा है कि कंडीशनल सेंटेंस में लोचा थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो रहा है लोगों को, तो देखते हैं यार। चलो एक बार ये रिव्यू वगैरह ख़त्म कर लें, दी एरियाज दैट यू स्ट्रगलिंग मोर इन। एक बार बैठ के, इफ टाइम परमिट्स, आई विल गो अहेड एंड टीच यू द कॉन्सेप्ट्स, ठीक है? बट पहले एक बार रिव्यू खत्म कर लेते हैं, जिन जिन एरियाज में लगेगा बहुत ही स्ट्रगल हो रही है, रिव्यू से बात बन नहीं रही है, पढ़ाना ही पड़ेगा, तो बैठ के पढ़ा दूंगा यार, टाइम परमिट करेगा तो। ठीक, सो दैट्स वेयर आई स्टॉप टुडे, and in the next session we will sit down together and we will look at errors based on modifiers. So थोड़े adjectives, थोड़े adverbs, उनको ही modifier बोलते हैं अपन। तो एडजेक्टिव्स, एडवर्ब्स, मॉडिफायर्स, इन सबको हम अगले क्लास में बैठ करके साथ में देखेंगे, उनका रिव्यू करेंगे, उनको पढ़ेंगे, थोड़ा मस्ती मस्ती उनके साथ भी करेंगे, देखेंगे उसमें और क्या करना होता है, क्या किया जा सकता है। एंड देन फिर उसके बाद हमें और भी एरियाज कर रहे हैं अभी, है ना। वी वांट टू टॉक अबाउट आर्टिकल्स एंड प्रेपोजिशंस, वी वांट टू टॉक अबाउट सब्जेक्ट वर्ब अग्रीमेंट्स, उसी के साथ कंजंक्शंस भी कर लेंगे थोड़े। तो इसको करने से कम मेजर एरियाज हमारे सारे कवर हो जाएंगे। अंकित says take a class on modal verbs, figure of speech, identifying the part of speech। चल पार्ट ऑफ स्पीच वाला कोशिश करते हैं, कहीं एक्टिविटी अगर साथ में इंसर्ट कर पाए तो। Priyanshi, the first thing is to go through grammar, to learn all each area individually so that you have the underlying concepts. After that, you start practicing with mixed bag tests in order to attune your mind to all these errors. बिना grammar solid किए थोड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है फिर। Okay? Anindita says नहीं होने वाला English English. Anindita, do you know that a large chunk of my education has happened in English medium, and I come from a small town. I started from there and I became the number one in the CAT VRC section. I have 100 percentile. So होता है, ये मुझे पता है। ओके, सो उसमें कोई डाउट ही नहीं है, बस कंसिस्टेंसी चाहिए, दैट्स ऑल दैट इट नीड्स। सही गाइडेंस भी चाहिए, बट हाँ श्वेता सेज मैराथन मिक्स क्वेश्चंस कर लेते हैं सर एक बार। हाँ वो भी करेंगे, अभी किया तो था यार 4 दिन पहले बाबा, जैड का मैराथन किया था, उसमें तो मिक्स्ड बैग ही था। आगे जो मॉक्स वगैरह कर रहे हैं, वर्कशॉप्स कर रहे हैं, आता रहेगा सब कुछ यार। बट ग्रामर हैपन्स टू बी वन ऑफ दोज एरियाज वेयर अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल मे नॉट इवन हैव बेसिक्स। तो वो यार सबकी अलग अलग नीड है। अब देखो इतने सारे लोग हैं, कोशिश कर रहे हैं सबके लिए हर वो चीज़ जो कर सकते हैं करें। तो चलिए, दैट्स वेयर वी स्टॉप टुडे। यार जाने से पहले वीडियो को लाइक ज़रूर कर देना, ये इंपॉर्टेंट मैट्रिक है, मेरी टीम उसको देखती है और खुश होती है। सो दैट विल बी अ ह्यूज हेल्प। हाँ, एंड इन केस यू आर न्यू, डोंट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब। आई विल सी यू इन द नेक्स्ट वन। नाउ टेक केयर, गो अहेड एंड कीप वर्किंग हार्ड। और जो जो इनपुट्स देने देते रहे ना, ताकि उस पर काम करते रहे फिर हम लोग।